All right, here we go. And also, I'm glad this happened on Friday, or Thursday, so that I can get first crack at it with you. 3, 2, 1.
You're listening to The Weigh-In with Mike Parson.
What are you cackling at, fatty? Too much pie, that's your problem.
And Fred Slow.
Anybody want a peanut?
On demand 24/7 at weighinradio.com.
Interior crocodile.
Let he, who has never smoked marijuana through a gas mask and posted video of it online, cast the first stone, Fred.
Is it a scuba bong? Is that what it is for going underwater?
Is that what it was? I don't know. I thought it was a gas mask hooked up to a bong for ultimate buzz.
Shows you my ignorance as far as smoking marijuana goes. But Laramie Tunzel introduced smoking marijuana. Or how many different names do you think we can come up with for weed?
Let's see. Pot, weed. Is dope? No, is dope marijuana? I think dope's marijuana.
It is. What's Acapulco Gold? Is that marijuana?
I think that's a different strain, along with your Panama Reds.
Oh, okay. Well, so Laramie Tunzel decided that literally minutes before the draft last Thursday, the most viewed television event all year besides the Super Bowl, that he was going to release via social media of a video, a short 15-second clip of him enjoying just in marijuana. He was doing marijuana.
Wait, you think Jeremy Tunstall actually posted that himself? Because I believe the theory that he was hacked.
It's his Twitter. How could it be? It has a blue check mark. How could it be hacked?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, how hard is it to hack a Twitter password? I would imagine that. When it comes to all the tasks a hacker could perform, that's probably like kindergarten level.
Well, if Laramie Tunsil is dumb enough to smoke the devil's lettuce on a 15-second video, then yeah, I would assume he has the same password for everything in his life.
Well, look, that video of him gas masking the wacky tobacco, from what I understand, it's 2 years old. And of course, when it came to his attention, and this was all happening in real time, I kind of felt bad for the kid because he was being blindsided.
Ooh, good phrase.
Yeah, right. It's not supposed to be a football pun since he's an offensive lineman. But I do believe that somebody hacked the kid, and I do believe someone was messing with his money. And the question is who? A lot of people say possibly his stepdad because he got in some legal trouble last year for getting into a fight with his stepdad after his stepdad allegedly hit his mother. But Fred, I think that so far my theory is the best. I think that the Dolphins hacked his social media page so he'd fall to 13th and they would get a discount on a first-round draft pick.
Ooh, classic Mike Tannenbaum. Classic Mike Tannenbaum.
Do you know what Tannenbaum means? Christmas tree, Fred.
Oh, I thought it was the GM of the Dolphins. I don't know if it was the Dolphins, man. I don't think this had anything to do with money. I think it was purely revenge. This is woman scorn stuff. This is maybe like, did he win the state championship in high school? Is this maybe the quarterback from the other team? Is this maybe somebody else in the SEC who maybe he shut down on pass rushing or broke someone or chop blocked or did something? I don't know, man, but I don't think it's money. I think it's pure revenge.
Oh, absolutely. And when I said someone's trying to mess with his money, I mean they're trying to mess with his money as a way of revenge, because obviously there's a big pay gap between it's between top 10 picks and the rest of the first round.
Yeah, the way it's structured, because they have slotted salary now. And that's why we saw 8 trades in the first round this year, that's a lot of trades. Teams are pretty willing to move around because you can make the money work quickly. You can go to your cap guy and say, hey, we get a guy at this position, that's double on, but a guy that plays this position, drafted at this position, then what will it work and how much will it cost? And it does not cost a lot to get a guy at 13. It costs an awful lot to get a guy at 3.
Right. And of course, before the whole Jared Goff / Carson Wentz Rams trading trading away the next 5 years to go first. Before that was a discussion, a lot of people were projecting this kid to go top 5, maybe even number 1. And as the night went on, I felt bad for the kid. And I've got to say, I learned more about Laremy Tunsil in the past few days than ever in my life. Last year, he was suspended. Well, I think the season before, because it was like, what? How many games was he suspended for taking improper benefits from Ole Miss? Which, to me, that's not really a cardinal sin. It's just, to me, that's him breaking a rule that's as outdated as wool sweaters and leather helmets. He got arrested for beating up the man who allegedly beat up his mother. And let's not forget about the text messages between him and the higher-ups in Ole Miss Athletics, where he was asking for money to help pay his mom's bills. Really, all this shows me is this guy's looking out for his mom. Now, I could see how all these GMs passed on him. A lot of people said, well, they shouldn't have passed on the kid. But, okay, it's your first-round draft pick. And although the NFL marijuana laws are laxed, you could still see a Josh Gordon situation where if somebody doesn't kick the habit, they're going to be sitting out for an entire year, or at least for a good amount of games, where if that's your first round draft pick, I'm not sure if that's what you want to gamble with a top 10 pick. And ultimately that's what happened.
I don't have I feel like we talk about this nearly every week, though. I don't have a problem with anyone smoking weed. You can tell me about everything that's bad about it forever. The only argument I'll hear is the same argument I made in favor of Curt Schilling, is if you want to do something that you know is not accepted at your workplace, understand there's going to be consequences whenever you do that thing. With that said, the weed thing doesn't bother me. And also with the text messages being revealed, I feel like specifically if you're trying to enact revenge or you're trying to insert turmoil into someone's life and you have access to their text messages to find their screenshots or their conversations or whatever, you're going to grab the most scathing thing because you want this punishment to be as severe as possible. With that said, $300 to pay mom's light bill doesn't get me worked up. $300 to pay mom's light bill is what you have to do in situations when your family doesn't have $300 and they need to have the light bill paid. I would assume everyone who's up in arms about this are guys who have never been in the struggle of not having $300 and having your water turned off.
Yeah, and I think the impression I get, Fred, is most people are they feel more sympathetic towards Tunsil than angry at him, especially with that text message being so relatable to anyone who has a mother. And that's why I said he didn't commit a sin. He just broke an arbitrary rule that was already outdated. And if you ask me, I don't really know why marijuana is a banned substance in the NFL. It's not a performance enhancer. It's probably, if anything, a performance inhibitor. So if you're smoking the dope and you're still performing at a high level, that's even more impressive to me.
If I'm an agent, and I know we're going to get to Goodell, but we're not there yet. If I'm an agent of a player, and not just an individual player, but multiple players that are entering the draft, I think I would have a policy, regardless of what's in their closet, regardless if it's skeletons or if it's the cleanest closet you've ever seen. Before the draft, give me 2 weeks before the draft, and give me 2 weeks after the draft. Right to the time when we lead up, when there's more magnifying glasses and microscopes on every player and the whole thing, and then 2 weeks after you've already signed your contract, where I say just shut Facebook down, man. Shut Twitter down. Shut IG down. Stop Snap. Shut them all down. Get off. Go dark. Do like LeBron in the playoffs. If you remove the opportunity for these kind of things to happen, then they don't happen. And if we're being honest, 99 out of 100 times, this isn't going to happen. But you make that blanket effort, and then you don't even have to be partially concerned about this.
Well, and also you have to think, if you're a college athlete, what reason in the world is there for you to have a social media account other than you getting yourself in trouble? Because if you're a college athlete, you're not building a brand. actually, in fact, building a brand is against NCAA regulations. So, they say nothing good happens after midnight. Well, same thing goes if you're a college athlete on social media. The only thing that can lead to is you either shooting off at the mouth without thinking of the consequences, or posting something that's taken out of context, or posting something and having it come back to haunt you 2 years later. So, Fred, I think that's a very good idea if you're an agent. But, if I'm an athletic director, if I'm a coach for any college program or any sport in the college program, I mean, I wouldn't make it a mandatory deal, but I would strongly advise all my players to not have a Twitter account. If they have a Facebook account, keep it very very private, and keep it very what's the word? Vanilla, I guess. Maybe use it only as a way of staying in touch. And I would use this Laramie Tunsil situation as exhibit A, B, and C as to why it doesn't benefit you in any way to have any social media account until after you're done playing. Now, the day I'm done playing, go ahead. Start a Twitter, start an Instagram, start building that brand. But while you're under NCAA jurisdiction, I just don't see any benefit to it.
Kind of the last storyline before we get to Goodell, and let's get to Goodell after the break. Before the next storyline, Tunsil allegedly beat up his stepfather a couple months ago after his stepfather assaulted his mother. And that's kind of what makes me, that's where I think this direction is. There's no doubt in my mind Laramie Tunsil has an old cell phone that's just sitting at his mom's house. There's no doubt. And there's no doubt in my mind on that old cell phone sitting in his house, it's already logged into Twitter. And there's no doubt that whenever you hit the Wi-Fi on that bad boy, that you're going to be able to access his Twitter. Also, on the 27th, which is the day before the draft, there was a double lawsuits were filed between Tunsil and his stepfather on domestic violence for this fight that we're talking about. It doesn't make a ton of sense to me that the stepdad would sabotage him if the stepdad is trying to sue him for money because he's going to have less money then. But in these heated kind of passionate situations, when you're not going to ever in the rest of your life be able to beat up 6'5", 300-pound Laramie Tunsil like you can beat up his mom, you're going to do something like this to kind of jeopardize him and ruin him. Now, this is all alleged. This is all speculation. I'm making all this up. I don't know any of it to be true, but I'm thinking about the easiest ways to complete this scenario, and this might be one of them.
Right, and it's a perfectly cromulent theory, Fred, because that pound of flesh you get may be more rewarding to you than any money that you're going to get out of this guy. And maybe logically in your heart of hearts, you're probably not going to get any money off this guy because you were probably in the wrong. But, with all this being said, a lot of people said that Laramie Tunsil, he sold out the Ole Miss athletic program, yada, yada. Look, you had the kid up there. He's being blindsided with this all at once. He doesn't have an agent with him. Eventually, someone from NFL PR had to hop in and get him off the podium. I think all things considered, he handled himself pretty well.
I don't have a problem with admittance. I'm a guy who wears a heavy heart. If I feel shamed or if I feel guilty, that affects me. I would rather be guilt-free than walking around like I'm keeping a secret or a lie, or at least denying something that everyone knows is true.
It's the weigh-in. WeighInRadio.com, 590 The Fan, 590thefan.com, PendulumPodcast.com, CaveRadioSports.com. We'll be right back. By the way, cromulent's not a real word. It's from a Simpsons episode where they're talking about people making up real words, and someone says it's a perfectly cromulent theory. What angle did you want to take on Goodell here?
Afterwards, he said these kind of stories are what makes the draft exciting.
Okay, we can obviously talk about Goodell. So I really did not know the name of Mike Tannenbaum. I was really genuinely confused, but hopefully it comes off as me trying to make a joke. But if not, oh well.
Well, and I hope I have that right.
Yeah. I was like, you said, I think you said classic Mike Tannenbaum. I'm like, how's Fred trying to use the word Tannenbaum? Does he think it means something else?
Okay, Tannenbaum was fired in 14. It's Dennis Hickey.
Oh, well, you know what? Maybe we'll just edit that whole part out. How about that?
Well, I'll just come back and own it. I'll say it's actually Dennis Hickey down there now.
Okay. All right. You want to bring us back?
Hold on. I got to find this thing here.
Okay.
All right. Goodell, Tunsil situation. Part of what makes the draft so exciting. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Oops. Wrong button. 3, 2, 1.
Now, back to the weigh-in.
These guys are like bad stand-up comics that you can't heckle.
Weightinradio.com.
Dennis Hickey, Mike. Dennis Hickey is the GM of the Dolphins. Looks like Tannenbaum hasn't been there for some time. So,
and I would love to say, Fred, that's why I was confused, because I knew Mike Tannenbaum left in 2014 or he was fired in 2014. But I've got to be honest, I'm not super well versed on my NFL GMs. So it wasn't a bright, shining moment for either one of us, with all apologies to CBS.
NFL teams have copyrights on colors. If you worked for an NFL team, would you basically only wear like the team colors?
No,
and I'm not saying you're not a player. You're like administrative. You're part of the support staff.
No, because I feel like you should enjoy your job, but your job shouldn't define you, and you shouldn't take it home with you unless you really need to.
Well, I mean at the office. Like it's biz cash every day, but are you at every day wearing like that teal polo if you work for the Dolphins?
Probably, just because I would imagine that I would accrue quite a collection of them over time. Mm-hmm. And as I cycle out my old shirts, my free new shirts would take over, and it probably would be all I have to wear.
I know I work for the St. Louis Ambush, which is our indoor soccer team here in town, and like on game days I'll wear like the team colors, which is like, you know, like black and aqua or black and teal or whatever. I will wear those, but then outside of there, I never put on like, I don't wear any ambush gear outside. They don't get like, there's no like extra money to wear that around, so I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, to me, it's almost like you're bragging about your job. And to me, when people sort of, you should take pride in your job, obviously. But if you're wearing it around like a varsity jacket, that's weird to me. Also, I think that kind of goes to my theory. People shouldn't be defined by their jobs, because those jobs can go away. And if you define yourself by your job and you lose your job, it's probably much harder than it would be otherwise.
I feel like very much, and specifically here on the radio, there's Radio Fred and then there's Real Fred. And Radio Fred is kind of a work. Radio Fred, he's a little over the top. He gets enraged about things he doesn't normally get enraged about. He is more of a Full House fan than he is in real life.
Right. He's also only 5'9",
which is neat. That I like being part of a regular. But the thing about Roger Goodell is probably a bad person, right?
Well, if anything, he's probably tone deaf, and I have a feeling that he lives in a bubble. If you're head of an organization, Fred,
the biggest organization on the planet,
where you're in charge of disciplinary action, and when you appeal those disciplinary actions, they go right back to the person doling out the disciplinary action. I have a feeling that bypasses a lot of checks and balances, and I have a feeling there's not a whole lot of people in the NFL organization who feel comfortable being honest with Roger Goodell. He's probably mostly surrounded by yes men who tell him that every decision he makes is the right one because, well, he's judge, jury, and executioner.
He was doing an interview Friday morning, so the morning after the draft, the first round, with Mike, ESPN's Mike and Mike. You may be familiar with it. It's basically, it's fluff on top of fluff. and they throw him the softball of, hey, Mr. Goodell. It's always Mr. Goodell because why not?
Don't you dare call him Roger.
So yeah, here actually I'm going to paraphrase. Hey Raj, what'd you know about this situation last night? He says, "Well, I didn't know anything. I'm so busy." Are you freaking kidding me? You are the leader of this thing. This story is bigger than the draft itself. And you're going to tell me you don't know anything about it? You're going to tell me the highest rated prospect on the board is free falling worse than what's something that free falls like really terribly?
A body off a bridge.
Yes. So Laramie Tunsil is figuratively falling off of a bridge into lava, and you don't know why. You're not even questioning it. And it kind of, to me, shows like he can't pronounce dudes' names when they get drafted. Like, how out of touch are you, bro?
And I don't know if this was happening in the first round, but in the second round, I noticed that they started bringing out former players.
Yeah, that's how they do it. The first round is all Goodell. The second round is players, and then like ambassadors to the teams.
So I have one of two theories here. One, obviously, they're trying to make the later rounds of the draft more interesting. Or two, Goodell just got so sick of being booed every time he went up to the podium that he just said screw it and went home.
He makes $44 million a year to be booed by everyone. The NFL has a built-in scapegoat. They went to Roger Goodell and they said, "Hey, Raj, how much money would it take for you to be the boo guy?" And he said, "Well, let me mull it over. Let me talk to my family. I don't ever want to be able to like walk through airports again. I don't possibly ever want to be able to go to like fast food restaurant. $44 million. That'll be good. I'll do it. I'm your guy. Everyone in the whole world can hate me."
You would have done it on Ricky Lake for $1,500, Fred.
Right. But I would have grown out of that. The NFL is so big. This guy, he's an idiot. So he's talking to Mike, and he says, they say, "Well, what about this whole situation with Laramie and him with his gas mask bong?" And Goodell says, quote, "I think it's all part of what makes the draft so exciting."
Well, Fred, what? If you're the head of the NFL, obviously that's the wrong thing to say.
Yeah, duh.
But he's not necessarily wrong. It did make the big intrigue, obviously, going into the first round is what quarterback's going to be drafted first, Goff or Wentz.
The NFL did a great job of telling the Rams not to tell anyone who they were taking. Right. Up until they took Goff, I didn't know they were taking Goff. I thought they were taking Goff, but I didn't know it.
But after that, there was no intrigue for the first round other than, who's my home town team or who's my favorite team going to pick. But watching this whole Laramie Tunsil thing unfold, and every time they took a shot of him, pick after pick, his name not getting called, John Gruden getting all fired up, that made for extremely compelling television. Now, if you're the commissioner of the NFL, you're supposed to hold the company line. You shouldn't say that. But having said that, I don't disagree with them. To me, it made the first round of the draft really, really interesting.
Yeah, the way that the NFL does the draft is the best way to do the draft. I think it was 2 or maybe it was 3 years ago. ESPN had a guy in the green room, and the guy in the green room, he would wait and he would watch for players to pick up their phones. And then when the phone got picked up, he would call to Chris Berman and he would say, "Hey, it's so-and-so from this team. That's who they're picking for sure. We're not telling you to spoil it, but go ahead and spoil it." And then moments before the actual pick would come out, Chris Berman would go, "Well, I just got an inclination that it's going to be so-and-so." And everything was killed. The whole thing was ruined. Do you remember when the NCAA released their brackets for the tournament, and they accidentally came out like 45 minutes before the broadcast? And the whole broadcast it was the same thing. The NFL has really locked it down. The draft is very good. It's fun to watch. It is exciting. I don't know what's going to happen. We talked about the pay scale. Your team can move in or move out. You have to keep your eyes peeled. They make you take 10 minutes for anticipation and conversation and hashtags. It's done great. But G to the D, Roger Goodell, do not say that this kid's turmoil and agony is, quote, part of what makes all the drafts so exciting. You dumb SOB.
Now,
Christ.
are you calling him a dumb SOB because because what he said itself, or because of his position in what he said?
Have some couth. Don't talk about the agony and struggle of others as primetime TV. You dumb piece of crap.
Well, it's like we said last week, Fred. We are now in a behind-the-scenes society. The show is not the show. What's happening behind the scenes with the show is the show, and the show itself is just a prop for that, if that makes sense.
Here's a show I'll watch. One where Roger Goodell goes to get a haircut, and he asks for that dumbass haircut he's got, and he looks like an idiot. Stupid haircut.
Fred, how much money would you pay to throw baseballs at Roger Goodell in a dunk tank?
Well, let's see. I know it would. I would only charge $1 for myself, but I don't make $44 million a year. I don't know, $100 maybe.
Okay, all right. Well, there's a charity event idea right there. If Raj ever comes to St. Louis, which I don't know why he would now, because there's no football.
He needs to match me though. If we're talking charity, he needs to match me. Goodell.
Oh yeah,
step up.
Yeah,
sit down, get wet.
Yeah, he'll sneeze and fart out $100. That's no problem. Hey, here's something.
They're not. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead.
Well, my kind of final on Raj, I hate his freaking guts, and it's because I think he's a bad person. But he's very good at his job.
Right, exactly. And I think now that we are at our advanced age, Fred, being a good person doesn't really mean much when it comes to the business world. If you can make a group of rich people a lot of money, you will also get rich yourself, and you'll get away with a lot of stuff. We talked about it with Greg Hardy and Ray Rice. Ray Rice is not out of the NFL because he punched his fiance out in an elevator. He's out of the NFL because he can't play anymore. Greg Hardy, he came back because, yes, he beat his girlfriend up and threw her down onto a futon full of assault rifles, but he could still help the Dallas Cowboys win football games. He could still contribute to a product that is lucrative beyond all measure. So, yeah, Roger Goodell, he's probably one of the worst human beings you'll ever meet, but he makes the owners a butt ton of money, so he can just go on continuing to be a terrible person.
I know we're up against it here. My final thought on Goodell, and I think you're right. I think you've hit on all your points. My final thought, as I'm in my early 30s now, there's not a lot of my life that I don't think I can take on. I don't think I could be a doctor. I don't think I could be an astronaut. But I sure as heck think I could run the NFL a lot cleaner than Roger Goodell runs the NFL. And maybe I'm an idiot. Maybe that's not true. But I think it just takes good decision-making and being able to take the temperature of a freaking room. Understand the severity of the things you were talking about. Match my intensity level, Roger Goodell.
Well,
show sympathy to the freaking kid. Just show sympathy. Well, be the father figure he obviously lacks. I'm sorry, Mike.
No, it's okay. I'm just saying you're illustrating my point earlier. How this guy is most likely in a very insulated bubble of yes men. How many people do you think came up to Roger Goodell after that interview and said, "Hey, Raj, that's kind of a funny thing you said about Tunzel on Mike and Mike"?
Zero people.
Zero. And you know what? If he were to hear this, it'd be a miracle, because I'm sure everything that goes to that guy's ears is filtered hard.
Matt Rocchio, our very own Matt Rocchio from 590 The Fan and the Football Dealers, heard daily 1 to 3. He's the guy who asked Tunzel the question. He said, "Did you take money from football coaches?" And he said, "I would have to say yes." Roger Goodell knows this station exists. We did the Michael Sam story. Hear me, Roger Goodell. Piece of junk.
It's the way in 590 The Fan, 590thefan.com, PendulumPodcast.com, CaveRadioSports.com, WayInRadio.com. Roger Goodell knows all those stations exist now as well. We'll be right back. Excellent.
Hey, good job.
Thanks, you too. Okay,
sorry. Did you want to go to Prince's Vault, or did you not want to do that?
Actually, Actually, I've got. I do want to talk about Prince because I've been reading all week on how hard he just loved to troll Michael Jackson.
I don't know anything about that.
Okay, so
the girl then finish on Prince, or what's up?
What's that?
So do you want to do the little blonde girl and then finish on Prince, or do you want to do Prince and then the little blonde girl?
We'll do the little blonde girl last. I got one more thing, just one quick thing about Jeremy. I keep calling him Jeremy, Laramie Tunsil, and then we can move on to Prince.
Works for me.
Okay, so here we go. I'll come back. 3, 2, 1.
Now, back to the weigh-in.
I'm a little worried about being a slut.
Weighинradio.com.
Fred, like we often do on this show, we get into discussions that go all over the place, and there's just one thing I wanted to bring to the attention here before we move on from this Laramie Tunsil thing. I'm glad that the kid got a shot. I think that whoever tried to sabotage him has ultimately failed because he still got drafted, and now it's up to Laramie Tunsil to get that money back on his next contract. But Deadspin put out a story how a week before the draft, they got a anonymous email.
Yeah, I saw that.
Of somebody trying to sell this video to them. And there's excerpts. April 12th, they received an email in their tips inbox. It says, 40-second video of projected top 5 pick in 2016 NFL draft, smoking drugs, cracker weed from gas mask, looking to sell. So Deadspin emailed back, is it Laramie Tunsil? The emailer said, yes. And so Deadspin said, look, a college kid smoking marijuana is not really a story. So they ignored it, and they said a day later, after they got no response, the anonymous emailer just emailed them back with a question mark. And that was that.
I guess they had sent some screenshots in the email, and Deadspin says, college kid smoking weed, not a story.
Right. So good for you there, Deadspin.
Yeah, they did a good job. Hey, when Deadspin's got the right morals figured out, Goodell, when Deadspin does.
Right. Yeah. If Deadspin's your moral compass, you're on a highway to HE double hockey stick.
Such a jerk.
Yeah.
Everything in my life revolves around how I hate his guts.
Yeah. Well, and you know what, Fred? We got Goodell running the NFL. Prince is dead. The world's bleak.
Prince dying, it's the worst, man. Like, and it's kind of putting, like, I'm reading, every day there's something new, because the guy was so layered, right? He was the onion of,
and private too.
Yeah. There's just people didn't know, and people who did know, they weren't really allowed to talk about it, because then you wouldn't know Prince anymore.
Right.
Like, so he was very, I don't want to say conniving, because conniving makes it sound bad, but he always had a work going on. He always had an angle. He was
calculated.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you, Mike. He was, apparently his last set of tours were only in like low income communities where he was like helping churches and families and youth in need. And he has this home outside of Minneapolis, where he's from Minnesota, obviously. He has this home that literally has a vault in it that has like 20 years worth of unreleased songs. Keep in mind, he already has 21 released albums.
Right.
We could, for the next 20 years, get brand new Prince music from beyond the grave.
Actually, I've heard it's for the rest of the century, but I could be. Either way, he has a butt ton of unreleased music.
He also had an estimated $500 million, and he had no will.
Which is very odd, because if you've accumulated $500 million and you haven't blown it, you must be a somewhat competent businessman, and you have to be somewhat smart with your money. And you just talked about how Prince is very calculated, and everything he does seems to be very deliberate. I'm thinking there's a reason he didn't have a will. I don't think it was an oversight. You hear these stories about his health and how he's known for a while he's been sick with something, which I'm sure that'll come out in the next few days or weeks. So I think Prince had ample warning and opportunity to draw up a will, and he decided not to for whatever reason, for a reason we may never know.
Allegedly, he had more than 20 different lawyers in his phone for different legal reasons. If it's, I don't know, if it's, I heard he messes with Michael Jackson's estate all the time, or if he gets a jaywalk. Do you know about that Michael Jackson thing, Mike?
Oh my God. I have been reading all week about how Prince just loved trolling Michael Jackson. And I've always liked Prince fine. I mean, songs came on the radio. Everyone likes 1999 or Let's Get Crazy or some of his more obscure hits like I Can Never Take the Place of Your Man. But I've never owned a Prince album. His death didn't particularly hit me hard, but I saw a headline about Prince and Michael Jackson's relationship, and I thought to myself, that's very fascinating. So I opened it up, and I am such a huge Prince fan now because Prince, for as effeminate as he seemed, I think he was surprisingly alpha, and I think that he would mess with Michael Jackson because they were the two biggest pop stars of their time.
Whoa, all time.
Maybe all time. I don't know, but definitely of their time. And yeah, they're probably top 10 all time. But I don't know if you knew this, Fred. Did you know that Michael Jackson's hit single "Bad" was supposed to be a duet between Prince and Michael Jackson?
Ooh, you're talking about a like a David Bowie kind of
Jagger thing, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Keep going.
Okay. The reason the deal went south is because the first line of the song is "Your butt is mine," and Prince said, hold up, because Prince had a surprisingly deep voice for as high as he could get singing. He said, hold up, who's singing that line to who? Because you're not singing that line to me, and I sure as hell ain't singing it to you. And he just walked away. He just walked off the project. There's another story about, I don't know how they the stars aligned for them to play ping pong together, but they played a game of ping pong together, Fred. And Prince beat Michael Jackson so bad that he started calling Michael Jackson Helen Keller.
Oh, no.
And then, I don't know if you knew this, Fred. This is our first celebrity gossip segment, by the way, on the weigh-in. Everyone tuning in for in-depth draft analysis totally hates us. But this is funny, okay? This is funny. will.i.am was mutual friends with both Prince and Michael Jackson. In fact, Prince had will.i.am playing in his band for a couple shows in Vegas. And will.i.am did not know about the beef between Michael Jackson and Prince. So he invited Michael Jackson to the Prince show. And Michael Jackson's like, no, I don't know. Things between me and Prince are kind of tense. And will.i.am says, Boulder Dash. I'm going to give him a call, and we're going to get you some great seats in VIP. So he called Prince, and Prince said, yeah, go ahead. And at the show, in the middle of a bass solo, Prince walks up to Michael Jackson and 3 inches in front of his face just starts slapping his bass in his face and like staring him down. And then the next day, will.i.am goes to Michael Jackson's house for breakfast. And Michael Jackson said, that Prince has always been such a meanie.
It sounds like it's on at that point.
I think that was it. And then I guess he wrote a couple of lyrics or something, making fun of Michael Jackson. And I don't know. I just the more I learn about Prince trolling Michael Jackson, the more I miss him.
The part I like a little bit about it is so Queen and David Bowie do Under Pressure, right? So it's a Freddie Mercury, David Bowie like mash, and the deal was, it's a collaboration. They're both doing it, but it's going to be released on Soul Brother, which is a Bowie album. But then, and it's going to come out first on the Bowie album. But then Queen snakes it and puts it out on the Bohemian Rhapsody album. And then so there's like this big thing about it where they're going to get all the sales and they're not going to get, and they hate each other for the rest of their lives.
Right?
Because if they had just worked together, it would have been the biggest single whatever of all time. Same thing with Prince and Michael. But you've had so much individual success that you don't have to share. You don't have to play well with others because, in your opinion, you're probably the best in the game.
Right, exactly. You don't want to play second fiddle. Prince probably felt he was bigger than Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson felt he was bigger than Prince. I'm sure that, and I'm sure that if Prince says, hey, yo, Mike, I'm not singing that line to you. You're going to have to sing it to me. Mike be like, okay, Prince. But Prince, I think it's weird. I think success, right? The steps to success. When you're first starting out, you have to say like okay to everything, right? You just want to get your name and your product out to everyone.
Sure.
But once you reach a level of success, you have to shift that because now
Yes.
you're visible and you have to start thinking, okay, is this consistent with the identity and the persona that I've built for myself? Okay, this will get me a lot of exposure, but is it the right kind of exposure? How am I going to look? And I think that I think Prince, up until Prince lashed out against the internet, which I think essentially turned him into a heritage act. I think through the 80s and most of the 90s, he understood that, and that's why his star continued to rise until the internet ruined it.
That transition period you're talking about is neat because there was a time. Let's use me and you for example. When through digital media, we were really broadcasting to just friends and family. We didn't have that yet, and now we're fortunate enough with a fan base where you have to turn down what I'm not going to call opportunities. You just have to turn down. You have to turn down people of interest because you now have a brand, you now have a style, you have whatever it is, and that's tough for those guys because I feel like there's probably such a one-upsmanship about. I bet you. How about this? I bet you that there was a time somewhere that Prince was like, I could have sung Lisa, It's Your Birthday a whole lot better than Michael Jackson.
Right. He's like, hey, wait a second. Why does a Michael Jackson impersonator get his own Simpsons episode and not a Prince impersonator?
But then Prince got all those impersonations on SNL. See, there's a thing about it. Like I feel like there was probably a back and forth up until he died. I bet that was the last one did Prince go to Jackson's funeral? I don't know.
I can't recall. I would imagine not.
I'm gonna have to check it out. Yeah, my final thought on it, because we didn't mean to do so much on Prince. So he doesn't have a will, right? He doesn't have the will, and apparently he has one full sister and like a grip of half siblings, and half of his estate is going to go to Minnesota in a death tax, and then the rest of it's going to get divvied up, but not like fairly or at all. So that's tough for his family.
Well, and so far, as long as nothing breaks between now and when this airs on our multiple affiliates, so far you haven't heard any feuding between the family yet. And that's a big yet because what'd you say? He had 500 million, you said, when he died?
Approximately.
And then, at least a good 200 million of that is going to the state of Minnesota. $300-ish million. I would say that's enough to get a family at each other's throats. And I hope it doesn't happen.
Isn't Michael Jackson's oldest kid named Prince?
It could be Prince Michael. But I always thought that was he called him Prince because Michael Jackson is the king of pop. So he's like, oh, the king's son is the prince. And of course, in a moment of megalomania, he pretty much named his kid after his brand, really.
Yeah, but there's always a public story and there's always a private story. Was it actually a thing where it's like, well, now I can tell Prince what to do. He's going to do it no matter what.
Right. Anytime Prince houses me at ping pong, I can just go home and yell at my son.
Prince beat me in ping pong, so I went home and beat the crap out of Prince Michael. That's what happened.
I love slandering people who are dead and can't defend themselves. We're going to get haunted, and that'll be terrible because I always thought Michael Jackson would make a terrifying ghost.
My last one before we go, because we actually have actual stories. How elaborate is Prince's casket going to be?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm sure it'll be purple. It'll probably be layered with diamonds and pearls, and his hearse may be a little red Corvette because he could fit in it. He's only 5'2".
If there is a God, it will rain on that day. You're listening to The Weigh-In. 590 The Fan, 590thefan.com, Pendulum Podcast, Cave Radio Sports. I don't know, get a Stitcher, iTunes. We're out there. Find us.
You can't avoid us. I'll cut that last part out.
Why?
Oh, or I could. Yeah, that's fine.
You take that, Prince Michael.
Come here, Prince Michael. I'm going to go cut me a switch like my dad used to in that movie from TV. Did you ever see that made-for-TV movie, by the way?
Mm-mm.
Jackson American Dream. It used to be on VH1 like all the time.
Yeah, I'm not a big VH1er.
Yeah, you don't strike me. By the way, what hat is that? Which team?
River City Rascals.
The what?
The River City Rascals. They play in Independence, Iowa.
Oh, cool. God, I love minor league teams' logos. They're so.
So it's like it's a raccoon, and he's got like a bat and a thing.
Yeah, minor league teams have the best. I don't know if maybe because they're newer, the major league teams, so they got, they got new, young, edgier graphic designers or what. But
yeah, well, I was talking about that the other day about the Arizona Diamondbacks have like a new set of jerseys they're wearing all the time, and I was saying on the air, I was like, hey, these guys look pretty sweet, and my coach was like, they look pretty sweet for slow pitch softball players. Like, oh my god, dude, it's just that's what everyone's gonna look like.
Right.
Jersey's the future.
Give me an old English D.
I mean, do you hate Baylor? Do you hate Baylor's jerseys?
I haven't seen.
I'm for this girl now. I don't know anything about this girl, so you're gonna have to catch me up.
Okay, I will. All right, here we go. 3, 2. We'll go like 12-ish here, I think. 3, 2, 1.
Now, back to the weigh-in.
Got him!
WeighInRadio.com.
Fred, are we millennials, by the way? I can never be sure. 2 years ago when I was 29, I was a millennial. But now I'm 31, and I'm not sure if I'm a millennial anymore.
I don't think you grow out of it. I think you grow with it.
Right. According to a blog I saw on the Wall Street Journal, millennials were anyone who was born from 1981 to 1997. So I guess I would still fall into that category.
I am also of that category.
And it seems like the past few years, Fred, why don't you explain what a cheap pop is, by the way? Because that's a wrestling term.
Yeah, a cheap pop is whenever in wrestling what it is. It's whenever you are at a venue. They also do it in music. So whenever a performer comes out on stage and he says, "No one rocks like St. Louis rocks," that is a cheap pop.
Because people are like, St. Louis! He said St. Louis, that's where I live! He knows the name of the city I live!
Yeah, that is absolutely. You also see him on talk shows late at night, so people will be like, yeah, in my home state of Kentucky.
And the 3 people from Kentucky cheer.
Yeah. So that's a cheap pop.
To me, it seems like the last few years, either think pieces or rants against millennials have become the new cheap pop. And it's all the same. It's become an epidemic almost that when people want to get on their soapbox and make a condescending rant to go viral, they have to be sitting in the front seat of their car for whatever reason. Have you noticed this too?
Yeah, I've seen this. I see it with the the forever Christian guy and like the forever atheist guy and the forever firearms guy and the forever ever error guy.
Right. Right. If you want to go on a rant and post it online, you have to be sitting in the front seat of your car. I don't know. I don't know why. It's
the front seat of the car is the new studio.
It's a dashboard confessional, if you will, who was big with millennials back when us older millennials were young. Well, there's also been this this rash of videos where you have attractive blondes reading something either they wrote or somebody else wrote, and saying very, I call it pandering-esque things.
Oh, I agree.
And there's this one girl, and I didn't bother to know her name because I don't care. And honestly, the reason she made this video was to promote her name. She did one of these videos, and in the past few years, Fred, I've turned face on millennials. When I was younger and when I thought emotionally and not logically, I was one of these self-loathing millennials. And that's how these videos go viral, Fred, because people who think emotionally and not logically agree with it. What they're saying is true to an extent, but it's not the whole truth. Like, what color is a reindeer? And just stay with me here, Fred. What color is a reindeer?
Aside from red in the nose, it is brown.
Right, exactly. And Rudolph's nose is red. So if you focus in on Rudolph's nose, you'll say, "What color is Rudolph?" He's red. But if you pull back, he's brown. And that doesn't make any sense, but it will in a second. Pretty much what they do is they take a small sliver of the truth and they point it out, and it's not necessarily untrue, but it's not the whole truth. Here's the beginning of this woman's video.
If you guys have anyone on your social media like I do that's over the age of 40, you've probably seen them post at some point about how much our generation sucks. Well, as a millennial, I took it upon myself to try to evaluate what's so wrong with our generation and why they're so mad at us. And then I pretty much realized that we're just existing. We're not really contributing anything to society.
Okay, well, number one, the oldest millennials are 30. Okay, we're very young, and you really don't sort of hit your stride in your career until your late 30s or early 40s. But let's put that aside, okay? Mark Zuckerberg's a millennial. He's accomplished something. Us as millennials, we're changing the way news is reported and consumed. And by the way, Fred, there was this Iraq war that millennials fought in, and so I mean, I think, number one, it's very premature to say that a generation of people in their early 20s to mid 30s haven't accomplished anything. But even if we take that at face value, there's plenty of other examples out there of millennials who are not just existing and who are contributing plenty to society.
This girl's name is Alexis Bloomer. I don't know if that's her performer name or if that's her actual name. So Alexis, or let's say Miss Bloomer. So Miss Bloomer, she's a little bit, from what I'm seeing here, she's a little bit exactly the thing that I think she's about to rip apart. There's already, Alexis Bloomer already exists. Alexis Bloomer is already, just by looking at her in kind of her social media presence and what she is, she's already out there in other forms doing this exact same thing. So I'm not sure what kind of foothold, or I'm not sure what kind of path she's trying to blaze, as she already is a thing by someone else.
Fred, and you know what? I think you're getting to a point I'm going to get to. She contradicts herself, according to this clip.
We spend more time online making friends and less time actually building relationships. And our relationships appearance on Facebook is more valuable than the foundation that it's actually built on. Our idea of standing up for something we believe in means going on Facebook and posting a status with your
or
opinion.
A video.
We believe the number of followers we have reflects who we are as a person.
Says the woman who puts out this video online with millions of hits, who has gone on to go on her little guest appearance on Fox News. And, she's talking about how these Facebook followers and these YouTube views are so empty. But that's exactly what she's trying to do. She's trying to build her career with these viral videos online.
It's tough for me to say that you don't think it's important to have an online presence or followers whenever in this video you have manicured fingernails and all of these photos I'm seeing you are tits up only. I don't even know if that's okay for radio to say that.
Well, only if someone complains. But yeah, and obviously, Fred, she's reading. You can hear her reading, and I would imagine that this took multiple takes. So she's obviously carefully crafting her online image while spewing out these empty platitudes that contradict her actions. Here's another one. This is an age-old gripe.
We listen to really obscene music that degrades women and pretty much glorifies drugs and crime.
That's true, Fred. But guess what? It's been true since the 80s. It's been true since 2 Live Crew. It's been true since Snoop Dogg back in 1992. Hell, even Elvis was considered obscene when he first came onto the scene. So no matter where you are in history, Fred, these damn kids are listening to obscene music. But they've been listening to quote-unquote obscene music that moderates to being pretty tame by today's standards since the beginning of time.
it's a weird cause to champion, in my opinion. And I feel we talk about altruism a lot. We talked about a lot with Bomani Jones a couple weeks ago. I hear what she's saying, but what I think she means is not that millennials are terrible. It's that, or excuse me, it's not that. It's not that millennials are terrible. It's that people without like very conservative Southern views are terrible. Right. Is that? Are you getting that same vibe?
Right, because there's a clip I didn't put in this, but she says what was frowned upon is now being accepted. Okay, gay marriage, transsexual bathrooms.
Are you talking about tolerance? You better not be talking about tolerance over there.
Right, racial equality.
You knocked that off. Now I ain't want nobody to look no different to me over here. None.
I love when people say, take back the America that we love. Oh, okay. You're talking about the 1950s where segregation and racism ran rampant. So, yes, I definitely felt this was a thinly veiled conservative rant here. And one more very popular pandering technique, Fred, which I'm going to explain, comes from this clip.
And we idolize people like Kim Kardashian, and then we shame people like Tim Tebow.
Okay. A very common effective pandering technique is you take a small yet visible minority of people. You paint them as being the majority, and then you spew out a populist message that most people agree with as if you're taking a heroic stand against the mainstream. Some people idolize Kim Kardashian. Most don't give a crap. Some people mock Tim Tebow. Others don't give a crap. Do you know why, Fred? Because most millennials are too busy working 3 jobs, because when they ask for a raise, someone tells them to go to school to acquire more skills and then more insurmountable student loan debt. So look, every generation has its problems, right? Us as millennials, we have problems as well. But this video is complete garbage, and it's complete pandering, and it's complete half-truths to get these millions of views that you talk about being so empty and getting your guest spot on Fox News. So congratulations. It was effective. But most people with half a brain see through your BS and realize that it's just empty and pandering.
Well, and I tell you, I hadn't watched the video until now when you brought it up. Before I looked up her name and figured it out, I thought it was that Tommy Lauren girl that's on that OLN thing all the time.
Yes. And she is another serial panderer.
She's the same. She is this girl. This girl already exists, and it's Tommy Lauren or Lauren or whatever it is.
Right. And they both sound like robots when they're reading.
Yeah. And reading is hard. But the thing that gets me is I have a rule. If 3 people share like a video on my social media, I'll look at it. If 3 and only 3, and I'm friends with thousands of people on social media. But if the 3 people who share the video are both what I would call like super conservative, right wing, nuts in the butts, the guy, what's the name of the guy that always walks with the camera, the cell phone, and he like gives like a, you know who I'm talking about, Ari something. I'm not watching those videos.
Oh yeah, he's on Fox, right? Yeah.
Yeah, you're not telling me anything. And it's the other side of the coin too. If it's a video about smoking weed and legalizing it and why Bernie Sanders should be, I'm not watching that either. Like I get what hey, far right is easy, far left is easy, in the middle is hard. I want people to be in the middle.
Right. Black and white.
Decision. Go ahead.
Black and white, good, bad, right or wrong is easy. But nuance and thinking critically, that's hard. And that's why people get very threatened, because if you challenge someone's opinion, they're not comfortable anymore. And I'm with you, Fred. If it seems like propaganda, I'm not watching it.
No, I don't have time for that, man. It's not hard to sit around and listen to far right or far left all the time and then gain a skewed opinion and viewpoint, and then from there be ignorant to everything else that exists.
All right. We will be back next week. WayInRadio.com, 59 to the Fan, 59tothefan.com. By the way, Mike Tannenbaum, he is now the Miami Dolphins executive VP. So he went from GM to getting a promotion. All right, Fred. So we will have our Mike Tannenbaum facts ready to go next week. See you next week. Bye.
Hey, thank you for finally saying what needed to be said.
GG. Yeah, I just saw that thing on TV. Like, we've been totally wrong about Mike Tannenbaum. We'll eventually get it corrected. All right, good. I hope my
Dolphins takes not that hot.
That's okay. Like I said, that's what I said. I'm not really well versed in the NFL's front office management. I hope my rants made sense. I think sometimes when I go on rants, I forget what I'm going to say, and I start repeating myself. So hopefully you could follow it.
Yeah, no, I was with you.
Okay, good. Okay, good show. Hold on, I'm going to stop the broadcast here.
Oh, why? Because I'm going to talk more